The luxury industry is experiencing its most dramatic transformation in 50 years, with billion-dollar brands desperately removing logos from products that once proudly displayed them across every visible surface. What was considered the pinnacle of status signaling just 5 years ago now marks its wearer as tasteless and insecure to those who truly understand contemporary luxury codes. Welcome to the death of Logomania and the rise of a new luxury paradigm, where the most expensive items look deliberately ordinary, where true wealth whispers instead of shouts, and where knowing insiders can spot $15,000 items that most people mistake for basic casual wear. The Logomania era reached its peak between 2000 and 2020, when brands like Gucci, Louis Vuitton, and Balenciaga covered everything from handbags to sneakers with prominent branding. These logo-heavy designs served a specific psychological function, allowing consumers to broadcast their luxury purchases to anyone within viewing distance, regardless of fashion knowledge. A monogram Louis Vuitton bag communicated its price point and prestige instantly, creating what sociologists call accessible luxury signaling that required no cultural literacy to decode. The pandemic and subsequent economic uncertainty triggered a fundamental reassessment of these values, with conspicuous consumption suddenly appearing tone-deaf and vulgar rather than aspirational. The shift began subtly in 2020 when fashion insiders noticed that truly wealthy individuals were gravitating toward brands like the Loro Piana, and Brunello Cucinelli that eschewed visible branding entirely. These labels had always existed at the luxury apex, but their prominence within elite circles accelerated dramatically as Logomania became associated with nouveau riche tastelessness. A Loro Piana cashmere coat costing $12,000 features no external branding whatsoever, its quality apparent only to those who recognize the specific shade of camel, the particular drape of baby cashmere, and the subtle construction details that separate exceptional from merely expensive. This invisible luxury created a new hierarchy where true insiders could identify each other while remaining anonymous to the broader public. The television show Succession accelerated this transformation dramatically, introducing millions of viewers to the aesthetic codes of generational wealth and stealth luxury. Costume designer Michelle Matlin deliberately avoided logo-heavy pieces, instead dressing characters in understated excellence from brands most viewers had never heard of. The Succession effect created unprecedented demand for quiet luxury, with Loro Piana reporting sales increases of 400% in key markets during the show's run. Suddenly, consumers who had previously valued recognizable logos began seeking the opposite, luxury so refined it announces itself only to the initiated. If you're fascinated by this seismic shift in luxury culture and want to explore how the industry is adapting to new consumer values, please subscribe to Lux Eternal and activate the notification bell. Your support allows us to continue documenting these crucial transformations in how we understand, consume, and communicate through luxury goods. The psychology driving Logomania's death reveals fundamental changes in what luxury consumers seek from their purchases and how they construct identity. Younger generations, particularly millennials and Gen Z with significant purchasing power, increasingly value authenticity, sustainability, and individuality over status broadcasting. Wearing a Gucci belt with prominent double G hardware now signals insecurity and need for validation rather than success and sophisticated taste. The cultural meaning of logos inverted completely, transforming from aspirational symbols into markers of try-hard consumption that sophisticated buyers actively avoid. Major luxury conglomerates responded to this shift with remarkable speed, redesigning flagship products to minimize or eliminate visible branding. Bottega Veneta, under creative director Daniel Lee, became the poster child for this movement, removing all external logos and focusing entirely on craftsmanship, materials, and distinctive design language. The brand's signature intrecciato weave became recognizable to fashion insiders without requiring any text or symbols, creating the perfect balance of insider recognition and public discretion. Sales exploded as consumers embraced bags costing $4,000 that looked nothing like traditional luxury signaling, but communicated sophistication to those who mattered. Gucci, perhaps Logomania's most prominent champion during the Alessandro Michele era, executed a dramatic reversal under new creative direction. The archive-heavy, maximalist aesthetic featuring prominent logos and bold graphics gave way to understated elegance, prioritizing materials and construction over visual impact. This strategic pivot reflected market research showing that the brand's core luxury consumers were migrating toward quieter alternatives, threatening long-term brand positioning. The challenge for heritage brands involves maintaining recognition and desirability while adapting to values that fundamentally contradict the logo-driven strategies that built their empires. The handbag category illustrates this transformation most dramatically, with the status hierarchy completely inverted over just 5 years. A Louis Vuitton monogram bag, once the ultimate aspiration for millions globally, now ranks below completely unbranded leather goods from the row or Kate in prestige perception among informed consumers. These minimalist bags cost similar amounts but signal entirely different values, prioritizing craftsmanship, material quality, and design restraint over heritage and recognition. The shift created existential challenges for brands whose value proposition centered on instantly recognizable patterns and logos that consumers now actively reject. The footwear market experienced parallel disruption as logo-covered sneakers lost cachet among style-conscious consumers. Common projects? A brand featuring minimal design with only small gold numbers identifying size became the preferred choice for those seeking luxury without ostentation. The simple white leather sneakers costing $450 look nearly identical to basic alternatives costing $50, but construction quality and material selection justify the premium to those who understand the difference. This subtle differentiation represents the new luxury paradigm, where superiority reveals itself through wearing and touch rather than visual recognition. The watch industry navigated this transition more successfully than fashion categories, having always maintained strong offerings in understated luxury alongside flashier options. Brands like Patek Philippe and Vacheron Constantin never relied heavily on visible branding, with their value proposition centered on horological excellence and heritage rather than logo recognition. However, even watch brands noted shifting preferences towards smaller cases, cleaner dials, and reduced branding as Logomania's death influenced all luxury categories. The Rolex Datejust or Patek Philippe Calatrava, with their restrained elegance, suddenly felt more contemporary than the oversized, complicated pieces that dominated the previous decade. The death of Logomania created opportunities for emerging brands that built their identities around quiet luxury principles from inception rather than adapting existing strategies. Labels like Frankie Shop, Totem, and La Mer gained prominence by offering sophisticated basics and exceptional materials with zero visible branding. These brands understood that contemporary luxury consumers sought clothing that looked effortless and understated, while feeling exceptional in quality and construction. The success of these newcomers pressured established luxury houses to reconsider fundamental approaches to design, branding, and consumer communication. The jewelry category experienced profound transformation as statement pieces with prominent brand identifiers lost ground to delicate, personalized designs. The Cartier Love Bracelet and similar iconic, recognizable pieces faced competition from independent designers, creating unique pieces without obvious brand attribution. Consumers increasingly valued personalization and individual expression over wearing the same recognizable items as thousands of others globally. This shift challenged the entire concept of iconic jewelry pieces that derive value partly from universal recognition and aspirational status. The rise of resale markets and authentication challenges contributed to Logomania's decline as counterfeit logo products flooded the market. When fake Gucci belts and Louis Vuitton bags became virtually indistinguishable from authentic versions to casual observers, the status signaling function broke down completely. Logo products lost their communication power when authenticity became impossible to verify visually, driving luxury consumers toward items where quality and construction separate real from fake. A Loro Piana crown or the Row bag made from exceptional materials with superior construction cannot be convincingly replicated at low price points, rejecting their status signaling function. The social media influence on Logomania's death proved particularly significant as influencer culture reached saturation and authenticity became the new aspiration. Consumers grew tired of seeing the same logo-heavy products on thousands of influencer accounts, with repetition destroying the exclusivity and individuality luxury promises. The authenticity trend favored personal style, vintage pieces, and quiet luxury that suggested genuine taste rather than ability to purchase whatever Instagram. declared desirable that season. Luxury consumers began seeking distinctiveness rather than conformity, fundamentally contradicting Logomania's premise of broadcasting membership in recognizable brand tribes. The sustainability movement accelerated Logomania's decline as conscious consumers questioned the wisdom of purchasing heavily branded items that quickly feel dated. A logo-free cashmere sweater in a neutral color remains stylistically relevant for decades, while a piece covered in a brand's seasonal logo feels outdated within months. This longevity consideration aligned with growing awareness of fashion's environmental impact and desire to build thoughtful wardrobes rather than constantly cycling through trends. Quiet Luxury's emphasis on timeless design and exceptional quality perfectly matched values of sustainability and conscious consumption that increasingly drove purchasing decisions. The economic implications of Logomania's death created winners and losers across the luxury landscape, with brands unable or unwilling to adapt facing serious challenges. Companies that built entire business models around logo recognition struggled to maintain relevance and pricing power as consumer preferences shifted dramatically. Meanwhile, brands like Brunello Cucinelli that never embraced Logomania experienced unprecedented growth as their values aligned with emerging consumer priorities. The market capitalization shifts reflected fundamental reassessment of which brands could thrive in the post-Logomania luxury landscape versus those facing structural challenges. The death of flashy luxury extended beyond fashion into lifestyle categories, including automotive, real estate, and hospitality. Wealthy consumers increasingly preferred understated luxury vehicles from brands like Audi or Volvo over flashy supercars that announced their price to everyone. Real estate trends favored sophisticated minimalism over the maximalist, obviously expensive interiors that previously signaled luxury. This comprehensive shift across all luxury categories suggested fundamental changes in how affluent consumers construct and communicate identity rather than temporary fashion cycle. The generational aspect of Logomania's death cannot be overstated, with younger luxury consumers driving demand for authenticity, sustainability, and individual expression. These buyers grew up with social media, understood its artificiality, and sought luxury experiences that felt genuine rather than performative. Logo-heavy products designed for Instagram validation contradicted their values around authenticity and individual style, accelerating the shift toward quiet luxury. The demographic reality that these younger consumers represent luxury's future forced brands to adapt regardless of existing strategies or heritage. The implications for luxury marketing proved equally profound as traditional approaches centered on aspiration and logo recognition lost effectiveness. Brands shifted toward storytelling that emphasized craftsmanship, materials, heritage, and values, rather than simply displaying products with prominent logos. This narrative approach required more sophisticated marketing that educated consumers about quality rather than simply triggering desire through aspiration and recognition. The death of Logomania forced luxury brands to justify their premium pricing through substance rather than relying on logo recognition to communicate value. The future of luxury appears firmly rooted in quiet sophistication, with Logomania unlikely to return to its previous prominence even as trends cycle. The fundamental shift in values driving Logomania's death, authenticity, sustainability, individuality, represents lasting change rather than temporary fashion. Luxury brands successfully adapting to this new paradigm prioritize materials, craftsmanship, timeless design, and subtle distinction over flashy logos and obvious branding. The death of Logomania ultimately represents luxury's maturation, moving beyond crude status signaling toward more nuanced communication of taste, values, and sophisticated understanding of what true luxury means in contemporary society.